Students are joining. We will start in a minute. Hello, good morning, and welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep. Today is lecture 3. Yesterday, we initiated a discussion on preamble, and we looked at what is preamble after all. It's the philosophy of the Constitution, it's the identity card of the Constitution. It's basically, in a nutshell, what are the goals and the aspirations of the Constitution? Those are contained in the preamble. And when we look at the text of the preamble, we can break it into 4 themes. The first thing that preamble tells us, what is the source of authority? What is the source of authority from which the Constitution derives its authority? That's the people of this country, we the people. Then it tells us, what is the nature of the Indian state? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And I told you, if you notice, all these terms are in capital letters and there is no comma separating one from the other, which means you have to look at this as an integrated whole. And then we look at preamble, the third theme. It talks about what are the objectives of the Constitution: justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity. And through this, we can assure unity and integrity of India. And finally, it tells us the date on which the Constitution was adopted, which is different from the date on which the Constitution was enacted, entered into force. Then we discussed whether preamble is part of the Constitution or not. What is the significance of the preamble? Some quick points related to preamble which can be relevant for the prelims examination. And we jump then to part 1 of the Constitution, which deals with the Union and its territory. And then I told you that we have to discuss 4 articles, Article 1 to 4. But you don't have to remember article numbers, just understand the concept. But once you revise polity 5, 6, 7 times, which you will have to do, minimum 5, 6, 7 times, you will automatically remember some of the important articles. That's it. Article 1 has few clauses. You don't have to go clause by clause, understand the concept. But I will still go clause by clause so that we have a continuity. Article 1, clause 1 says, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. India, that is Bharat, that means we have a dual name for this country. A traditional name, Bharat, and a modern name, India. So we are marrying tradition with modernity, because there was a lot of debate in the Constituent Assembly as to what should we name this newly independent country. And a compromise was reached. Both names were used, India as well as Bharat. Forget about the recent controversy. Let's look at India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. This term, union of states, might give a sense that India is a unitary constitution, a unitary polity. Because if it was a federal polity, a federal constitution, the phrase used would have been India, that is Bharat, shall be a federation of states. But Dr. Ambedkar gave a clarification, an explanation to this, and said ours is a federal constitution. But I've used the term union of states for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, India is not the result of an agreement between states. India was not created because the states entered into agreement to create India, unlike United States, which was created due to the treaty, due to the agreement by the 13 ex-colonies of the British Empire, by the 13 independent countries. And reason number 2, no state can come out of the Union of India. No state can secede from the Union of India. Then Article 1, Clause 2, it says, all the states and the territories thereof shall be specified in the first schedule of the Constitution. And what is a schedule? We initially had 8 schedules. When the Constitution was enacted in 1950, we had 8 schedules. Now 4 more schedules have been added, and in total we have 12 schedules. And we will discuss all these 12 schedules one by one. If you look at your timetable, there is a specific mention of when schedules chapter would be taught. But when we look at schedule, what is a schedule? I told you it is an explanatory memorandum of an article. When an article requires more explanation, we add the explanation at the end of the constitution in the form of a schedule. But schedule is part of the constitution. Clear? What is the need? Cosmetic. If the names of all the states and union territories would have been mentioned in Article 1, Clause 2, then this article would have looked bulky. That is why, as a cosmetic measure, because lean is in, as a cosmetic measure, a schedule was added to the constitution at the end of the constitution where the names of all the states and their territories and the union territories were specified. Clear? Now we will look at Article 1, Clause 3. The territory of India shall comprise. When we look at the length and the breadth of this country, what do we have? We have the states, 28 states, as I told you yesterday. We have 8 union territories, as I told you yesterday, although union territories chapter we will discuss separately. But that should not mean that this should be the only length and breadth of our country. What if tomorrow we acquire Pakistan? What if tomorrow we acquire Sri Lanka? What if tomorrow we acquire Myanmar? And who stops us from acquiring China? That means our territory can also expand. That is why the constitution says that the territory of India shall comprise of either we will have states, or we will have union territories, or as the territories as may be acquired. And we have acquired a lot of territories. And the classic example of one acquired territory was the French settlement of Puducherry. Puducherry, previously it was known as Pondicherry. It was under the French rule. But then there was an agreement between the government of India and the government of France that Pondicherry, which is now Puducherry, will be acquired by India. This agreement happened in 1954. But this agreement had to be ratified by the French Parliament. There is something known as signing of an agreement and ratifying an agreement. Can you tell me what is the difference? The difference is, for example, you and me agree that I will teach you polity in 25 classes. There is an agreement. You and me agree that I will teach you polity in 25 classes. And we sign this agreement. But then we need to ratify it as well. Ratify in the sense, when are you exactly going to teach? So I will start teaching you from the 4th of October. That means on 4th of October, we are ratifying this agreement. We may have signed this agreement last year that once you will teach us polity in 25 classes. But when that is exactly going to happen, on 4th of October, that is when we have ratified this treaty. That means I have to give effect to this agreement. I have to implement this agreement. Similarly, when the government of India and the government of France, they signed an agreement because of which Pondicherry will be ceded to India, because of which Pondicherry will be acquired by India. But this was done by the governments of the two countries, government of France, government of India. But then, according to the French constitution, France cannot gift a territory to another country. France cannot give up its territory to another country unless and until the French parliament accepts this, passes a resolution accepting this, which means ratifying it. This ratification by the French parliament happened only in 1962. It took some time, which means between 1954 to 1962, Pondicherry, which is now Puducherry, was administered by the government of India as an acquired territory because we have acquired this territory. But once this ratification happened, once the French parliament ratified this secession of Pondicherry to India, it is then that Pondicherry became a union territory. And it became the first union territory to have its own legislative assembly as well, which we will discuss why it happened in the chapter Union Territories. But here you need to keep in mind Article 1, Clause 3. Article 1, Clause 3 says the territory of India shall comprise. If this is the entire length and breadth of our country, we will either have states or we will have union territories, or we will have territories that may be acquired by government, that may be acquired by the state. We have acquired Goa, Daman and Diu. We have acquired many territories. And the classic example, one example, is that of the French settlement of Pondicherry, which is now Puducherry. Clear? Article 2 of the Constitution talks about admission or establishment of new states. New states which are not existing, which are not present within India. So we need to admit a state from outside. We need to establish a state which is not present in the current context, in the current situation. For that, you need to understand the text of Article 2. Article 2 says Parliament may. What Parliament can do, it may pass a law. Parliament may, by law, admit into India or establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. Parliament may, what Parliament can do? Parliament can pass a law, because that's the job of the Parliament. That's the basic job of the Parliament, to legislate, to make laws. Parliament may, by law. What Parliament can do, it can enact a law, and through this law, it can admit into India or establish new states, but on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. How do we understand this Article 2? By looking at the example of Sikkim. Sikkim was a princely state, or should we say it was a separate country altogether. It was ruled by monarchy. It was a monarchy ruled by Chogyal. Chogyal is the institution of monarchy. For example, we had the Mughals. In Mughals, we had Humayun, Babur, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Muhammad Shah Rangila. So many Mughal emperors, but the institution is Mughal. Similarly, there were so many rulers of Sikkim, but the institution was Chogyal. In 1947, when India gained independence, Sikkim was already a separate entity. Separate entity in the sense it was a monarchy ruled by this institution, Chogyal. But Sikkim realized that on one hand we have India, on the other hand we have China, on the other hand in close proximity we have Pakistan. So we need some support. Otherwise I cannot function in isolation. And then there was an agreement between the monarchy in Sikkim and the government of India, through which Sikkim became a protectorate of India. In international law, what is a protectorate? For example, this is a weaker country. And we have a stronger nation. This stronger nation will protect a weaker nation. How will it protect? Either diplomatically or militarily. Sikkim is a weaker nation. India is a stronger nation. Sikkim and India came to an agreement through which Sikkim became the protectorate of India. That means India will protect this weaker nation known as Sikkim. How will it protect it? Diplomatically or militarily. How militarily? If somebody attacks Sikkim, India will come to its rescue. If in United Nations, for example, there are some sanctions to be imposed on Sikkim, if other countries decide to impose sanctions on Sikkim, diplomatically we will engage with UN, engage with other countries, and try to protect Sikkim and the interests of Sikkim. So long story short, Sikkim was an independent monarchy ruled by the institution known as Chogyal. And after the independence of India, Sikkim and India entered into an agreement, because of which Sikkim, a weaker nation, became the protectorate of a stronger nation, which is India. And India will protect this weaker nation diplomatically as well as militarily. And this continued over a period of time, and we reached 1973. And in 1973, there were protests, massive protests in Sikkim. Although there are some writers, some books which claim that it was India which was responsible for fueling these protests. It was our external intelligence agency, RNAW, Research and Analysis Wing, RAW, which was responsible for this. But whether that is true or not, we don't have to get into that. But the picture is there were protests in Sikkim in 1973, which is known as the Spring of 1973. Spring in the sense, have you heard of Arab Spring? Series of protests which started in Tunisia, then Libya and Yemen and other countries, where people of these Arab countries protested, came out on roads demanding democracy, because these were monarchies. That is what we call the Spring, Arab Spring. Similarly, there were protests in Sikkim in 1973 demanding that one, there should be democracy in Sikkim. And we should be very, very, very close with India. Or some would also say we should be part of India. Not just as a protectorate, but we should become a full-fledged part of India. There were these series of protests, and ultimately there was a compromise. What was the compromise? Three parties: Government of India, Chogyal, the institution of monarchy, and these protesters. They decided to come together. Why India is involved? Because India is protecting Sikkim. And at the same time, some people allege that RAW is responsible for this. So now all the three parties, they come together, and India is trying to persuade Chogyal that you give up some of your powers, Be like the Queen of England, have a hereditary position, but only be a nominal head. Real power you give back to the people of Sikkim. Let there be elections in Sikkim. Let the people of Sikkim decide what form of government that they want. And ultimately, elections were held, and a pro-New Delhi, pro-India political party, Sikkimese Congress, won the election. Complete institution monarchy. Now there are protests. Now there are elections. And a pro-India political party is winning the election, Sikkimese Congress. And now once this pro-India political party is winning the election, they pass a law known as Government of Sikkim Act 1974, according to which they convert the institution of Chogyal into a nominal constitutional head. Nominal constitutional head, because previously Chogyal was all powerful. Chogyal had all the powers. Chogyal was the judge, jury, and the executioner. But now his position has been converted to that of a nominal head, just like the Queen of England. The real power is with the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. The real law-making power is with the Assembly, with the Parliament. Queen does not have powers of her own. The King does not have the powers of her own. In a similar fashion, on the same model, Chogyal was also converted into a nominal constitutional head. When all of this was happening, Chogyal approached different countries, complained against India and said, look, India is interfering in our affairs. But the Sikkim government approached the government of India, said, we need more and more synergy with India. So some of our people should be part of your Lok Sabha. Some of our people should also be part of the bureaucracy. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi called the Parliament. Parliament, please come. Said, what? We need to amend the constitution. Why? Because we need to add Sikkim as an associate state of India. Constitution was amended. 35th Constitutional Amendment Act, the year was 1974. Sikkim was admitted into India as an associate state. Not a full-fledged state, an associate state where some members, where there will be a member in Lok Sabha from Sikkim, where Sikkimese people will also be eligible to write the examinations. That was done in 1974. And you know what the opposition did? Opposition in India said, Indira Gandhi is a danger to democracy. Why? Indira Gandhi has subverted the democracy. Why? Indira Gandhi has assaulted the democracy. Why? Because they said, look at Article 1, Clause 3. It categorically, explicitly states that the territory of India can have either states, or we can have union territories, or we can have acquired territories. There is no such thing as associate state in the Constitution of India. So Shrimati Indira Gandhi, you have violated the Constitution. How dare you? Shrimati Gandhi replied back and said, possibly, you have not read the Constitution. Opposition said, how? She said, read Article 2. Parliament may, by law, what Parliament can do, it can pass a law. And what was this law? 35th Amendment to the Indian Constitution, 1974. Parliament may, by law, admit into India or establish new states on such terms and conditions as Parliament thinks fit. And we deem it fit as a Parliament that Sikkim should be admitted as an associate state. But why associate state? Perhaps she was right. If we would have taken Sikkim as an acquired territory, international community would have said, where is the acquisition? Even if Chogyal is only a nominal constitutional head, but where is his permission? So you are doing something illegal. And ultimately, when Sikkim was admitted into India as an associate state, then Chogyal is approaching different countries and telling these different countries that India is interfering in our internal affairs. The very next year, something else happened. In Sikkim, there was a referendum. What is referendum? The government of Sikkim referred a matter to the people of Sikkim, asking the people of Sikkim, what is your take on this matter? And what was that matter? The government of Sikkim told the people, do you want to become a full-fledged citizen of India? Right now, we are an associate state. Right now, one member is there in the Lok Sabha or can be in Lok Sabha. But do you want to become a full-fledged part of India? Do you want to completely merge with India? An overwhelming majority of the people in Sikkim said yes. And when overwhelming majority of the people in Sikkim said, yes, we want to be an integral part of India, a complete part of India, the Sikkimese parliament or the Sikkimese assembly passed a law. And what did this law say? The institution of Chogyal is hereby abolished. So last year, Chogyal, who had all the powers, his powers were snatched and he was made into a nominal constitutional head. The very next year, the very institution is abolished. And when this institution was abolished, Constitution of India was amended again. 36th Constitutional Amendment Act was passed. Very next year in 1975, Sikkim was removed as an associate state. Why? Because it now became a full-fledged state of India. And now nobody can question India because we have the referendum results in Sikkim, where the overwhelming majority of the people in Sikkim have said, we want to be an integral part of India. Long story short, what is Article 2 of the Constitution? Parliament may, by law. What Parliament can do? It can enact a law. And through this law, it can admit into India, it can establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. One such example is that of Sikkim. Any questions as of now? Associate state. Associate state is just a tag. It's not a full-fledged state because the people of Sikkim are not the citizens of India at that time. It's only an associate state. Let's say, for example, the cricket analogy today. There are full-fledged members of the ICC, and then there are some associate members. They do not participate in all the cricketing tournaments, but in some major tournaments, they can participate. Associate state or associate member, not a full-fledged member. 35th Amendment was replaced with 36th Amendment. So there was Article 2 capital A, which made Sikkim an associate state. This Article 2 capital A was added by 35th Amendment, and this Article 2 capital A was repealed, deleted by 36th Amendment. Clear? Now let's look at Article 3, formation of new states. Article 2 basically talks about establishing a state which was not present, or admitting a different territory from outside, admitting it into India and making it a state. Clear? But Article 3 talks about whatever states we have in India right now. How can we divide them, merge them, bifurcate them, trifurcate them, divide them into multiple states? That is something that Article 3 talks about. And what is Article 3? Parliament may, by law. What Parliament can do? Through a law. What it can do? It can form a new state by separation of territory from any state, or by uniting two or more states, or parts of states, or by uniting any territory to be part of any state. What Parliament can do under Article 3? It can pass a law. Through this law, what Parliament can do? There is a state. It can be divided into 2, 3, or more parts, or more states. What Parliament can do? A part of this state can be made to join another state. What Parliament can do? It can increase the area of a state. It can decrease the area of a state. It can alter the boundaries of a state. It can even change the name of a state. And all this can be done only by Parliament. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, we talked about whether the constitution is unitary or the constitution is federal. And we said India is in a different league altogether. We say India is a case of sui generis, something unique. There are some provisions in our constitution which are federal in character, federal in nature, and there are some provisions in the constitution which are unitary in nature. And perhaps the best term that we can use for Indian constitution is that Indian constitution is quasi-federal. It has a mix of federal as well as unitary features. But there are some who say, despite the fact that we are a federal constitution, there is a strong unitary bias in our constitution. And that is what we call, listen to me carefully. Article 2 capital A is deleted, yes. Centralizing tendency of Indian federalism. Despite the fact that we are a federal polity, but there is still a centralizing tendency. That means there are still some powers which are more given to the center as against the states. In Indian federal system, center is more powerful as compared to states. And we will give umpteen examples of how center is more powerful in Indian federalism. And the first example is Article 3. Look at United States of America, which is the oldest federal constitution of the world. There we have 50 states which constitute United States of America. Can the center in United States divide a state? No. But only with the permission of that state. So states in United States can be divided, but with their permission. Center unilaterally on its own cannot divide a state, cannot merge two or more states. That's not the power with the center. So United States, we say, is an indestructible union of indestructible states. States without their permission cannot be destroyed, cannot be merged, cannot be divided, cannot be bifurcated. But in India, we say, India is a classic example of indestructible union of destructible states. Union of India will never be destroyed because Union of India will continue for perpetuity. But the states which make up the territory of India can be divided, can be merged, can be split. Their names can be changed, their boundaries can be altered, their areas can be increased, their areas can be decreased. All that can be done. So India is a case of indestructible union because union cannot be destroyed, but of destructible states. The states can be destroyed. By whom? By the center. Destroyed in the sense, split, merged, divided, bifurcated, trifurcated. Anything can be done. By whom? By the center. By whom? By the parliament. So when we say that our constitution is federal, but there are some features of Indian constitution, there are some elements of Indian constitution which give our constitution a strong central bias. There are some features which are biased in favor of a strong center. One such feature is Article 3. Because what Article 3 can do, Parliament can enact a law. And through this law, it can merge two or more states. It can divide a state. It can merge a part of the state with another state. It can increase the area of a state, decrease the area of a state, alter the boundaries of the state, even change the name of a state. That can be done only by the Parliament. But there is a process that needs to be followed. And that process is known as a consultative process. And what is that consultative process? Two things. One, if, for example, West Bengal wants to change the name of its state to Bangla, to Bengal, Paschim Banga, any other name. For that, what is the procedure? West Bengal government will say, we need to change the name of the state. They will go to the Assembly of West Bengal and pass a resolution. Resolution should be passed by the members of the West Bengal Assembly that we want to change the name of the state from X to Y. Clear? But can the state change its own name? No. Because who has the power to change the name of a state? Parliament. Now this resolution will be sent to the central government. Central government will table this matter before the Parliament. Dear Parliament, West Bengal wants to change the name of its state from X to Y. Please give approval to this resolution. and ultimately a law will be passed, and through this law, the name of West Bengal will be changed from X to Y. So this is if it is initiated by a state. But if the central government says, even if you want to change the name from X to Y, we will not accept, nothing will happen. The name of the state will never be changed because the real power is with the center, with the parliament. But be that as it may, what if the proposal is coming from the central government itself? They have to follow a process, and that process is known as a consultative process. And what is this consultative process? For that, we can understand the example of Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh, a state, there was a demand by a section of population in Andhra Pradesh that a new state should be carved out from Andhra Pradesh, and that state should be Telangana. Why? Allegation was that the citizens or the members or the residents of Andhra Pradesh who belong to the coastal Andhra, who belong to the Rayalaseema region, they are dominating the members from the Telangana region. So the members from the Telangana region, they don't have access to jobs, they don't have access to investments, they don't have access to capital, they have been deprived of various resources. That is why they say we have been deliberately underdeveloped. And the only way in which we can develop ourselves is if we come out of Andhra Pradesh and a new state, Telangana, is carved out. And the leader of this agitation was Mr. KCR. Massive protest happened at the Osmania University, at various other places. There were some individuals who killed themselves as well. And there was this demand that Andhra Pradesh should be bifurcated, should be divided, or should we say the term is reorganized, so that Telangana can be carved out from Andhra Pradesh. Ultimately, Government of India decided, okay, let's do this. So the process is, first there is a cabinet meeting. What is a cabinet meeting? For example, at the central level, we have the Prime Minister and we have the top ministers of the government, cabinet ministers, who are in charge of the entire ministry. For example, I am Mr. Amit Shah. I don't look like him, but assume I'm Mr. Amit Shah. I head the entire home ministry. Clear? That means I'm a cabinet minister. But there may be some ministers who will assist me, who are below me. Those are known as ministers of state. They are not in charge of the entire ministry. They are there to assist me. They are not cabinet ministers. I am the cabinet minister. And all the important decisions are taken by these cabinet ministers together with the prime minister. That is why you might have read in the newspapers, cabinet meeting has been called. There was a meeting of the union cabinet. Ultimately, all decisions are taken by the union cabinet at the central level. So first, what will happen? Prime Minister, along with his cabinet colleagues, they will discuss this bill. What is a bill? Bill is a proposal. What is the proposal? The proposal is to reorganize Andhra Pradesh. What is the proposal? The proposal is to divide Andhra Pradesh into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. This is the proposal. This is the bill. But if this bill is passed by parliament, because who has the power to divide a state? Parliament. If this bill is passed by the parliament, ultimately this bill becomes an act once it is signed by the president. So first, it's a bill, it's a proposal. This proposal may not be accepted by the parliament, may not be acceptable to the parliament. Then this bill will not become an act. So right now, it's only a proposal. So cabinet will discuss this bill and ultimately give its approval. Yes, we can now go ahead and introduce this bill in the parliament. If parliament gives its approval, we will send it to the president for signature, and then Andhra Pradesh would be divided into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. But the consultative process that Constitution talks about is that this bill, before it is presented to the parliament, before it can be presented to the parliament, this bill requires prior consent of the President of India. And the President of India, before giving his consent, will send this bill to the Legislative Assembly of the state which is going to be affected by this. Whether the allegations of the people of Telangana were correct or incorrect, that is not my concern. And that is not even the requirement of this examination. We just have to understand how Telangana was carved out, how Telangana was created, so that we can understand what Article 3 is. Clear? Article 3 says Parliament may, by law, what Parliament can do, it can enact a law. And through this law, it can divide a state, it can merge two or more states, it can change the name of a state, increase the area of a state, decrease the area of a state, alter the boundaries of the state. All this can be done by the Parliament. But Constitution further says that there has to be a consultative process that needs to be followed. And what is that consultative process? This bill under Article 3, which wants to make these changes, increase the area, decrease the area, alter the boundaries, change the name, merge the states. This bill under Article 3 cannot be introduced in the Parliament without the prior consent of the President of India. So when Cabinet gives its approval to this bill, and this bill is to be presented to the Parliament, but Cabinet would know that this bill first we have to send to the President. Why? Because this is a bill under Article 3. Why? Because the consultative process is mentioned in the Constitution. So this Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill, once it was cleared by the Union Cabinet said, now we can't place it in the Parliament because first we have to seek the prior consent of the President of India. This bill will be sent to the President. Dear President, please give us the permission to introduce this bill in the Parliament because this is a bill under Article 3. President says, I have to follow a consultative process. What is that consultative process? I will refer this bill to the Legislative Assembly of that state which is going to be affected by this bill. So which Legislative Assembly is going to be affected by Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill? Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly. So I will send this bill to Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly. For what? For seeking views. And a special plane, this Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill was sent to the Andhra Pradesh legislature. Seeking views from Andhra Pradesh legislature. President will say, give me your views in 10 days, 15 days, 7 days, whatever it is. Andhra Pradesh legislature said, we do not agree with bifurcation. We do not agree with reorganization. We want a united Andhra Pradesh. We do not want to bifurcate Andhra Pradesh, give up Telangana. President said, sorry, your views are not binding on me. I'm only seeking your views. Maybe you will say that don't make Hyderabad the joint capital for 10 years. We will create our own capital from day one. You may have some of your concerns. What will happen to the investment made by the Rayalaseema people in Hyderabad, because Hyderabad is going to be under Telangana. So whatever your views are, you can give me your views, but your views are not binding on me. So if you're saying we reject Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill, that is not going to have any impact on me. And once this view of the Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly was given to the President that we reject this bill, President said, sorry. Or in other words, President said, go to hell. It doesn't matter. And President asked the government, the cabinet, now you can introduce this bill in the Parliament. This bill was introduced first in Lok Sabha, then it was passed by Lok Sabha, went to Rajya Sabha, passed by Rajya Sabha, then it was sent to the President. President said, oh, this is the same bill I referred. President signed this bill. Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Bill became Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, and Andhra Pradesh was bifurcated into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And this bill requires what is known as simple majority. And what is simple majority? It's very simple to understand. Majority of the members present and voting. Tell me one thing. If there are 100 students in the class, what is the majority number? Very good. Everybody is right. 51. That means more than half. Let's assume that there are 543 MPs in Lok Sabha. MPs in Lok Sabha. And out of these 543 MPs, 43 are absent. 43 MPs are absent. Some are in Bharat Jodo Yatra, some are in North Pole, South Pole, some are only traveling, some are sleeping, and some are making Gadar too. Can happen. That means 500 MPs are now present. Now, for example, there is a bill on which members of the parliament need to vote. The same bill, for example, Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Bill, whether Andhra Pradesh should be divided or not. Obviously, some members will be against it. Some members will be in favor of it. Some members would simply not be interested. Doesn't matter. I'm from Odisha. It doesn't concern me. I'm from Punjab, it doesn't concern me, for example. So out of these 500, only 400 are voting. The simple majority becomes 201. Which means simple majority means majority of the members present and voting. If 543 is the strength of the Lok Sabha, 43 MPs are absent, 500 MPs are present, but out of these 500 MPs, 100 MPs say it doesn't matter to us whether Andhra Pradesh is divided or bifurcated or stays united. We will abstain. These 100 MPs abstain from voting. And abstention is for another reason as well. For example, there are some political parties which do not want to appear as close to the BJP or the Congress. For example, the BJD, Biju Janata Dal of Mr. Naveen Patnaik. In all his interviews, he says, I want to remain equidistant from both the Congress and the BJP. Equidistant in the sense, I don't want to appear as close to BJP or the Congress. So if BJD votes in favor of this bill, if this bill is proposed by Congress, if he votes in favor of this bill, people might think that you are closer to Congress. If BJD votes against this bill, because the BJP is opposing this bill, you might give a sense to the people that you're supporting the BJP. You don't want to appear as supporting the BJP or the Congress. You want to remain equidistant. You abstain. Neither vote in favor nor against. Simple majority means majority of the members present and voting. If, for example, 543 is the strength of Lok Sabha, all these 543 MPs are present. Clear? All these 543 MPs are voting as well. What is the simple majority? Very good. 272 plus. Anything above 272 is a simple majority. 272 or above is simple majority. And this bill under Article 3 requires simple majority. Clear? Which means Article 3 of the Constitution says, formation of new states. What Parliament can do, it can pass a law. And through this law, it can form a new state by merging two or more states. For example, Madhya Pradesh in 2000 was bifurcated into Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Bihar was bifurcated into Bihar and Jharkhand. Same year. Uttar Pradesh was bifurcated into Uttar Pradesh and Uttaranchal initially, which later on became Uttarakhand in 2000. Prior to that, Punjab was bifurcated. Bombay was bifurcated. So many instances of reorganization have taken place when the country has been reorganized into different states. For that, who has the power? Parliament, not the states. Because this is a centralizing tendency of Indian federalism. There are some features in Indian federalism which are biased in favor of a strong center. So through this parliamentary law under Article 3, Parliament can change the name of a state, increase the area of a state, decrease the area of a state, alter the boundaries of the state. But for that, a consultative process needs to be followed. And what is that consultative process? Read this paragraph. Provided that no bill for this purpose shall be introduced in either house of the Parliament except on the recommendation of the President. So this bill under Article 3 can be introduced in the Parliament only on the recommendations of the President. And President can give permission only when the views are given. Because the President will have to send to the legislature of that state, asking that state, give us your views. And once those views are sought, these views are not binding, President will give his permission, and ultimately the bill will be introduced in the Parliament. And ultimately the bill, if it is passed by simple majority, will be sent to the President for signature. President will sign this bill. Bill becomes an act. Andhra Pradesh is reorganized. One more thing for the prelims perspective. This bill under Article 3 can be introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. We have two houses of the Parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Now, when we say a bill is to be passed by Parliament, but Parliament has these two houses, This bill, where should it be introduced first? First in Lok Sabha, then in Rajya Sabha, or first in Rajya Sabha, then in Lok Sabha? This bill can be introduced in either of the two houses. You may introduce this bill first in Lok Sabha and then in Rajya Sabha, or you may first introduce it in Rajya Sabha and then in Lok Sabha. It's the government's call. Clear? But then we also need to understand how Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated. Why? Because this is the latest reorganization which has taken place, and this reorganization is under challenge before the Supreme Court. The hearing of this case has been completed. Now this judgment has been reserved, which basically means all the arguments have been completed. The court, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court, has heard all the matter, and now it is writing its judgment right now. And very soon, the Supreme Court will announce the verdict, what exactly happened in this case, whether this was right, wrong, constitutional, unconstitutional. But you won't understand this Article 3 usage in Jammu and Kashmir unless and until you know something very brief about Article 370. We will discuss Article 370 in great detail when we will discuss Jammu and Kashmir chapter. But very briefly here, through this Article 370, some sort of a special status was given to Jammu and Kashmir, under which only Article 1 and Article 370 was applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Devendra is asking, is passing in both houses necessary? Who can pass a law? Parliament. Parliament includes Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. So approval of only one is not sufficient. You need approval of both houses of the Parliament as well as the President of India. Because once the President signs, only then the law will enter into force. Only then this bill becomes an act. What sort of special status was given to Jammu and Kashmir? You don't have to go too deep into it. We will discuss this in the chapter Jammu and Kashmir. But here, just keep in mind that there are only 2 articles, or there were only 2 articles of Indian Constitution applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Article 1 and Article 370. Article 1, which says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states, and in this phrase union of states, Jammu and Kashmir is included. And Article 370. And what is Article 370? We will discuss separately. Which basically means Article 3 was not applicable on Jammu and Kashmir. Because Article 1 and Article 370 is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Article 3, which says Parliament has the power to reorganize the states, it is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. But on August 5, this special status was removed. How that special status was removed, we will discuss in Jammu and Kashmir. But here, to understand Article 3, just keep in mind that this special status was removed. Which means now the entire Indian Constitution is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Prior to August 5, only 2 articles were applicable, Article 1 and Article 370. Clear? Now, once this special status got removed, the entire Indian Constitution is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, which includes Article 3. And now when Article 3 is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, which means Jammu and Kashmir can be reorganized. And for that, a bill was introduced known as Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Bill 2019. What did this bill say? That Jammu and Kashmir should be bifurcated into 2 union territories. We previously saw Andhra Pradesh bifurcated into 2 states. Bihar bifurcated into 2 states. Madhya Pradesh bifurcated into 2 states. Uttar Pradesh bifurcated into 2 states. Punjab bifurcated into states. But now we are seeing a state is reorganized, bifurcated into union territories. One union territory, Jammu and Kashmir. The other union territory, Ladakh. Ladakh will not have a legislative assembly. Jammu and Kashmir will have a legislative assembly. Jammu and Kashmir will have a legislative assembly. Right now it doesn't have, but it will have a legislative assembly when the elections will be conducted. This was a bill. This was a proposal. On the morning of 5th of August 2019, Prime Minister, along with his cabinet colleagues, they meet and they discuss Jammu and Kashmir reorganization bill. The proposal is that we will reorganize Jammu and Kashmir and bifurcate it into union territories, Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. Why? Because Ladakh, there was a long pending demand by the people of Ladakh that we should be made a union territory. So we have to agree to their demand. That's why Ladakh is a union territory. And in Jammu and Kashmir, there is terrorism, there is cross-border infiltration, there is law and order is a casualty, law and order is an issue. Unless and until things stabilize, we will make Jammu and Kashmir, we will keep Jammu and Kashmir as a union territory. After that, we can make it a state. This was the proposal. And this proposal was cleared by the union cabinet, just like Andhra Pradesh proposal. But now this matter is sent to the president. Why? Because without his recommendation, you cannot introduce this bill in the parliament. And now this matter is sent to the president. President is told, please give us your permission. We want to introduce this bill in the parliament. President said, okay, this is a bill under Article 3, but I need to send this bill to the legislature of the state which is going to be affected by this bill. And which is that state? Jammu and Kashmir. But Jammu and Kashmir then was under president's rule. There was no government in Jammu and Kashmir. The government was over. President's rule was imposed. Why? Because there was a PDP-BJP government. BJP withdrew support to Mehbooba Mufti's PDP government, and ultimately the government collapsed. When there is no government, then what do? President's rule is imposed. Clear? And in case when president's rule is imposed, who will make law for that state? Because normally, every state has its legislative assembly. Karnataka assembly will make laws for Karnataka. West Bengal assembly will make laws for West Bengal. Tamil Nadu assembly will make laws for Tamil Nadu. Jammu and Kashmir assembly would have made laws for Jammu and Kashmir. But now, since the state is under president's rule, there is no Jammu and Kashmir legislative assembly. Now, who will make laws for Jammu and Kashmir? During president's rule, it is the parliament. During president's rule, when the state is under president's rule, parliament makes law for that state. So now this Jammu and Kashmir reorganization bill is passed by the union cabinet, cleared by the union cabinet, and then given to the president. President, please give us the permission so that we can introduce this bill in the parliament. President said, but this is a bill under Article 3. I have to refer this bill to the legislature of the state which is going to be affected by this bill. In this case, it is going to be the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly, because I need to seek views of Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly on this matter. But there is no legislative assembly. When there is no legislative assembly, because the state is under president's rule, and in case of president's rule, it is the parliament which makes the laws for that state. So president referred this matter to the parliament. Since you are the legislature of that state, because it's under president's rule, you give me your views. Parliament said, President, we agree. Please divide this. Okay. President said, okay, I got the views. Parliament, which is now acting as the legislature of Jammu and Kashmir, says, okay. I will also say, okay. And now Mr. Modi, okay, introduce this bill in the parliament. This bill was first introduced in Rajya Sabha, passed by Rajya Sabha, then introduced in Lok Sabha, passed by Lok Sabha, and this bill was passed on August 6, 2019. And when both the houses of the parliament passed this bill became an act. But the government said, we will implement this act on the 31st of October. Said why? Because 31st October is the birth anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India, who was responsible for keeping the country united, who was responsible for integrating princely states into the Union of India. And on 31st October, this act came into force. Jammu and Kashmir got bifurcated into union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. But all these raise important issues, raise troubling issues. There are those who are in favor of this. There are those who are against. Against in the sense, whether Jammu and Kashmir should have been divided into two union territories or not, that is none of our business, that is none of our concern. That's a political decision taken by the establishment. We have to look at the legal aspect of this. Was this done correctly or incorrectly? And will it have an impact on our polity? There are those who say there is nothing wrong in the manner in which it was done. Why? Article 3, not abused. Not abused in the sense, even if there was a legislative assembly in Jammu and Kashmir, even if. So there are people who say, since there was no legislative assembly in Jammu and Kashmir, you cannot ask parliament to recommend to the president, please reorganize the state. Since there was no legislative assembly. But this argument does not cut ice. Why? There was a legislative assembly in Andhra Pradesh which screamed at the top of their lungs that please do not divide Andhra Pradesh. We want a united Andhra Pradesh. President said, go to hell. In the similar fashion, even if there was Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly, even if their views were sought, even if they would have said, no, 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 don't divide us, President would still have said, go to hell. And ultimately, the bill would have been passed. So Article 3 has not been misused, has not been abused. Second, in Indian federalism, who has the power to reorganize the country? Center's power to reorganize the country. Parliament has the power under Article 3 to reorganize the country. Parliament exercised its power under Article 3. Problem solved. So what is wrong with this? And it is the job, prerogative of the Parliament or the central government to look at what is the need of the current time. The need is to prevent terrorism. The need is to ensure that law and order remains proper in Jammu and Kashmir. That is why they decided to control Jammu and Kashmir, keep it under the central government as a union territory. So this is basically a policy decision of the government. And policy making is the job of the government. So there is nothing wrong in the way, the manner in which Jammu and Kashmir was reorganized. But there are others who raise serious issues, serious concerns. And what are the serious concerns? Concern number one. Can permanent changes be made to a state when it is under a temporary president's rule? President's rule by its very nature is temporary. Constitution says that the maximum number of years president's rule can be imposed in a state is 3. That too after satisfying various conditions, which we will discuss in president's rule. Here you need to understand president's rule by its very nature is temporary. So if president's rule by its very nature is temporary, can permanent changes be made to a state when it is under a temporary president's rule? Permanent changes in the sense, now there is no state, it's a union territory. Can it happen? That is why some people say this is concerning. This should not have happened. Second, and the most important criticism is, what is Article 1, Clause 1 of the Constitution of India? Listen to me carefully, this is the most important point. And that perhaps will be the biggest deciding factor in this case, on which my sense is maybe the Supreme Court will say this act was unconstitutional. Maybe. I may be wrong, but maybe it may happen. Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act was unconstitutional. Maybe. What is that point? Article 1, Clause 1. India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Clear? This phrase, union of states, basically means federation. Federation in the sense, those states which share federal relationship with the Union of India. Federal relationship means dual government, distribution of powers. If what happened in Jammu and Kashmir is okay, is constitutional, how many states do we have in India right now? 28. What stops the government from converting Telangana into a union territory, Maharashtra into a union territory, Punjab into a union territory, all the 7 sisters and Sikkim into a union territory, Tamil Nadu into a union territory? That means 28 states, one by one can be converted into union territories. So we will reach a point where instead of 28 states and 8 union territories, we have 36 union territories. Can happen then. That means then Article 1 would say India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of union territories. And when it is a union of union territories, that means it's not a federal constitution. There is no dual government, there is no distribution of powers. If this is allowed, then what stops a future government from converting all the 28 states into 28 union territories, which changes the very idea of our constitution, which is India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. It will then be converted into India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of union territories. And union territories do not share federal relationship with the center. Union territories are directly under the control of the center. That is perhaps the biggest argument against Jammu and Kashmir reorganization bill. The third argument is it mandatory for the president to seek the views of the Legislative Assembly? Because look at the wording of Article 3, consultative process for expressing views. When the state is under president's rule, listen to me carefully, when the state is under president's rule, who has the power to make law for that state? Parliament. But only law-making power is with the parliament. No other power of the legislature is given to parliament. Sir, what are you saying? Legislature by its own has a lot of power. One such power is to give view to the president. But when the state is under president's rule, only the law-making power is given to the parliament, not the power to issue views. Because we say during president's rule, parliament makes law for that state. But parliament cannot now give view of that state as well. That is not something which is mentioned explicitly in the constitution. Which basically means it is mandatory for that state legislature to give its view. Whether that view is acceptable to the president or not, that is besides the point. But this consultative process has to be followed. The views have to be sought. That is argument number 3 against Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act. But once the judgment is given by the court, we will have an elaborate discussion on that judgment. So let's recap. Article 3. Parliament may, what it can do, it can pass a law. And through this law, what it can do, it can divide a state, merge states, increase the area, decrease the area, alter the boundaries, change the name of a state. And all this can be done by parliament by passing a law, and this law should be passed by simple majority. And what is simple majority? Majority of the members present and voting. But for that, a consultative process has to be followed, which is mentioned in Article 3. And we gave 2 examples of how Andhra Pradesh was reorganized and how Jammu and Kashmir was reorganized. Any questions? Please let me know. Who takes the proposal of Legislative Assembly of altering the name to the Parliament? This resolution is sent by the government of that state to the government of India, and then the government of India will introduce this bill in the Parliament. Can a state time for state to give its views? It is mentioned by the president. What about Article 35 capital A? We will discuss that in Jammu and Kashmir chapter. If the bill is not passed in Lok Sabha, then it will lapse. It will not be sent to Rajya Sabha. How can Parliament change the name of a state if the state is not willing to change its name? Yes. But when only Article 1 and Article 370 was applicable to J&K, how was President's rule imposed on J&K? First, it was Governor's rule under Section 92, Clause 3 of the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution. That period is 6 months. Once that period is over, then Article 356 of Indian Constitution becomes applicable. This we will discuss in Jammu and Kashmir chapter. It's not that only Article 1 and Article 370 was applicable, because there were various presidential orders which got issued, which applied other provisions of Indian Constitution to J&K, which we will discuss. For example, Supreme Court was made applicable, accounts were made applicable, CAG was made applicable, Election Commission was made applicable. although they are also part of the constitution. So that was done through a different process under Article 370, in which we will discuss separately. Isn't Article 370 was not applicable to J&K? It was not applicable. Now the entire Indian constitution is applicable to J&K, including Article 3. Can the state be divided without passing any bill in parliament? How can that happen? The state can be divided only by parliament by passing a law. Anita, what's your question, please? How Article 370 was removed? That's why, my dear, I'm telling you, Article 370, 35 capital A, Jammu and Kashmir will be discussed separately in a different chapter. We are only discussing Union and its territory, part 1 of the Constitution. Sir, why all states cannot be transferred into Union territories? Then we won't remain a federal constitution. We will become a unitary constitution. Because in unitary constitution, I told you, states can be created and abolished by the center based on its own will. Sir, how many states have their own state assembly? Every state has its own assembly. Every state. All the 28 states have their own assembly. Atharva, your questions are reaching to me, but what's your question? Sir, is there anything mentioned that it cannot be a unitary constitution? Because Supreme Court has said federalism is part of the basic structure of Indian constitution. No act of parliament can violate that basic structure. Okay. There is something known as special majority. And there are various flavors, various features of special majority. One is majority of 2/3 members present and voting. Simple majority is majority of the members present and voting. But instead, if we say majority of the 2/3 members present and voting, that is special majority. There is another special majority. Majority of 2/3 members present and voting and majority of the total membership of the House. What is the total membership of the House? For example, this is Lok Sabha. How many members are there in Lok Sabha? 543. Which means 543 is what? Total membership. What is majority of the total membership? Can you tell me? Very good, 272 plus. That means second type of special majority is majority of the 2/3 members present and voting and majority of the total membership of the House. What is the majority of the total membership of the House? This number is always fixed because total membership is fixed. For example, if 300 is the total membership of a House, What is the majority of the total membership of the House? 151. And this is what is known as absolute majority. Majority of the total membership of the House. This term is known as absolute majority. And it is this type of majority which is used to amend the constitution. I told you in the first class that to amend the constitution requires a tougher majority. There I could not explain it in great detail because you would not have been able to understand. Now is the time to explain this. To pass a law under Article 3 requires simple majority. Simple majority is majority of the members present and voting, which is easy to obtain as well because the governments always have simple majority. If the government does not enjoy simple majority in Lok Sabha, the government cannot survive. Simple majority is a must, minimum they have to obtain. But to amend the constitution requires a special majority, which is majority of the 2/3 members present and voting plus absolute majority. How? Let me give you an example. For example, $500 is the total strength. For example, 500 is the total strength. And there are 400 people who are present. There are 300 people who are present and voting. Let's say we want to amend the constitution. Clear? To amend the constitution, we require special majority. And what is that special majority? Majority of the 2/3 members present and voting and majority of the total membership of the House, which is absolute majority. Let's say the proposal is to amend the constitution. Let's say the proposal is to add a fundamental right to the constitution. Right to safe drinking water should be a fundamental right. This is the proposal before the parliament. This is the proposal before the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, you have to pass this. Will it be passed or not? Depends upon whether there is majority on this proposal or not. Whether majority agree that right to safe drinking water should be a fundamental right. Now 500 is the total strength of Lok Sabha. 100 MPs are still busy. They're not present in the Lok Sabha. South Pole, North Pole, Bharat Jodo, Gadar 2. Remaining 300 are present. 400 are now present. But 100, they're sleeping, watching something on the mobile phone, smartphones. And ultimately sleeping. They don't care whether right to safe drinking water should become a fundamental right or not. The remaining 300 are committed ones. Out of them, 200 say yes. 100 say no. 200 MP say yes, right to safe drinking water should be a fundamental right. 100 say no, it should not be a fundamental right. Will this bill be passed by Lok Sabha? No, everybody is right. Very good. Let's say 210 say yes. Will this bill be passed? Some say no, some say yes. Is 210 more than 2/3 of members present and voting? Yes. But is 210 absolute majority? No. Because absolute majority is 251. Because what is absolute majority? More than half of the total strength of the House. Majority of the total strength of the House, which is 251 in this case, if 500 is the total strength. Let's assume that 543 is the strength of Lok Sabha. Out of 543, 500 are present. 500 are voting as well. And out of these 500, 300 say yes. 200 say no. Right to safe drinking water should be a fundamental right. 300 say yes. 200 say no. Will this constitutional amendment bill be passed? can you say yes? Is 300 more than absolute majority? Absolute majority. Yes, it is. Because it is more than half of the total strength of the house. Total strength of the house is 543. Which means anything above 272, your condition number 2 is satisfied. And condition number 2 is majority of the total membership of the house. But you need to satisfy another condition. This 300 should be more than 2/3 of the members present and voting, which is not the case in this case. That means unless and until you satisfy both the conditions, this bill cannot be passed. If we say all these 543 people are present as well as voting, only if 362 odd people say yes, because 362 then becomes more than 2/3 of the members present and voting. Both the conditions should be satisfied, only then can this bill be passed. That is why we say to amend the constitution, it is difficult. You need to get majority in the parliament. And this type of majority, which is a difficult majority to obtain. So long story short, we have something known as special majority. One type of special majority is majority of the 2/3 members present and voting. The other special majority is majority of the 2/3 members present and voting plus majority of the total membership of the house. And this majority of the total membership of the house is absolute majority. When both these conditions are satisfied, constitution is amended. And to amend the constitution, we require this type of majority. Why are we discussing this? Because we have something known as Schedule 4 of the Constitution. What is Schedule 4 of the Constitution? It talks about representation of states in the Rajya Sabha. You mean to say 2/3 plus more than 50%? Please tell yes. Both conditions should be satisfied. 2/3 of the members present and voting plus majority of the total membership of the house, which means more than 50% of the total strength of the house. Both these conditions should be satisfied. There is something known as Schedule 4 of the Constitution. It talks about representation of the states in the Rajya Sabha. For example, we have Rajya Sabha where 245 MPs are there. 245 is the strength of Rajya Sabha. But in this Rajya Sabha, there will be 31 MPs from Uttar Pradesh. Where is this mentioned? It's mentioned in Schedule 4 of the Constitution. In Rajya Sabha, there will be 19 MPs from Tamil Nadu, for example. Where is this number mentioned? Schedule 4 of the Constitution. When Andhra Pradesh was united, when it was one state, we had 18 MPs in Rajya Sabha from Andhra Pradesh. But now Andhra Pradesh is split. Andhra Pradesh is divided. And this Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill says, instead of 18 MPs to Andhra Pradesh, now 11 will be of Andhra, 7 will be of Telangana. That means this bill, Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill, it changes, amends Schedule 4 of the Constitution. But Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill is passed by what type of majority? Simple majority. But to amend the Constitution, what type of majority is required? Special majority. How can this law, which is passed by simple majority, amend the Constitution? Because constitutional amendment requires special majority. How is that possible? Not just this. We have Schedule 1 of the Constitution. Schedule 1 talks about the names of the states and union territories. Prior to 2014, Andhra Pradesh was mentioned as a state. Now, because of Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill, now one more name has been added, Telangana. That means this Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill says, we will amend Schedule 1 of the Constitution as well. So that in Schedule 1, we will add one more name, and that name is Telangana. But Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill was passed by simple majority. To amend the Constitution, we require special majority. How can a law passed by simple majority amend the Constitution? Because constitutional amendment requires special majority. Same case with Jammu and Kashmir reorganization bill. From Jammu and Kashmir, there would be 5 MPs in Rajya Sabha. Or I think 6 MPs in Rajya Sabha, or 5 MPs. Let's say 6 MPs in Rajya Sabha. Now, there were 4 MPs in Rajya Sabha from Jammu and Kashmir. 4. In Schedule 1, only Jammu and Kashmir was mentioned. When Jammu and Kashmir reorganization bill was passed, Schedule 1 was amended. Because now Schedule 1 would say Jammu and Kashmir is under Union Territory. Ladakh name also has been added. From Jammu and Kashmir, we had 4 MPs to Rajya Sabha. Now from Jammu and Kashmir, we will have 4 MPs to Rajya Sabha, but it will be Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory, which means Schedule 4 has also been amended. How can a law which is passed by simple majority make changes to the constitution? Because constitutional amendment requires special majority. How is that possible? That's possible because of Article 4 of the Constitution. Article 4 says, laws made under Article 2 and 3 to provide for amendment to the first and the fourth schedule are supplemental, incidental, and consequential matters, and shall not be deemed as an amendment to the Constitution. What does that mean? I'll give you a hypothetical situation. Hypothetical one. Let's say in 25 classes, I have to cover, in about 25 classes, I have to cover Indian polity. Clear? Let's assume, although that's not true, but let's assume, just to make you understand. Let's assume I get money class-wise. For class 1, I will get money. Class 2, I'll get money. So for 25 classes into X amount, I will get the money. But I'm told that you have to finish this polity batch in 25 classes. What if I'm not able to finish this batch in 25 classes? I will ask for 26th class. I will ask for 27th class. I will ask for 30th class. That means I'm taking 5 extra classes, for example. But the management says you shall be remunerated, you shall be compensated only for 25 classes. Anything extra you would take will not be added to your numbers. That means although I'm taking 5 classes, but those 5 classes will be deemed as part of 25 classes. Which means although Article 3 amends Schedule 1 and Schedule 4, but it is not deemed as an amendment. Although it is amendment, but it is not deemed as an amendment. Why? Because Article 4 says it is not amendment. When it is not amendment, that means special majority is not required. When special majority is not required, then what is required? Simple majority. Simple. Which means Constitution says under Article 4 that Parliament, whenever you are passing a law under Article 2, because you are admitting a state into India, or whenever you are reorganizing the country under Article 3, there will always be change to Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. Because when you split a state, you have to add the name of the state to Schedule 1. You have to provide its representation in Rajya Sabha in Schedule 4. So the very consequence of Article 3 is there has to be change to Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. And it will not be deemed as a constitutional amendment. When it is not a constitutional amendment, that means you don't need special majority. But let's say there are 31 MPs from UP in Rajya Sabha. There are 31 MPs in Rajya Sabha from Uttar Pradesh. What if tomorrow, without dividing Uttar Pradesh, without bifurcating Uttar Pradesh, without passing a law under Article 3, which means we are not dividing Uttar Pradesh, we are not merging Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, we are not doing anything of that sort under Article 3. If without Article 3, if on its own, the Parliament wants to increase this 31 to 51, that requires a constitutional amendment. And that requires a constitutional amendment which needs ratification of half of the states as well. I told you in the first class that rigidity of the constitution means if constitution needs to be amended, it should be a joint act of both. Both center and state should come together to change the constitution. But in India, that happens only in few cases. Only those instances which are federal in character, only those features which are federal in character. If you want to change those features, you need ratification of more than half of the states as well. One such federal feature is representation of states in Rajya Sabha, Schedule 4. If you are passing a law under Article 3, which means you are dividing Andhra Pradesh, dividing Jammu and Kashmir, merging UP with MP. If Uttar Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh are to be merged, that means 31 is to be added to 11. So automatically, Uttar Pradesh, the combined state, will have 42 as the strength in Rajya Sabha. That's understood. Because you're merging two states. But without merging, without reorganizing, without Article 3, if you want to change the representation of states in Rajya Sabha, you require a constitutional amendment. And that constitutional amendment should be passed by the majority of the 2/3 members present and voting, plus absolute majority. But once it is passed by parliament, it has to be sent to all the state legislatures. Only when all these state legislatures, half of them, 28 state legislatures, half of them, 14 of them say, yes, we agree, only then can this constitutional amendment be accepted. So Article 4 basically says there is a consequence. What is a consequence? Whenever you pass a law under Article 3, there will be change to Schedule 1. There will be change to Schedule 4. Because in Schedule 1, you have to mention the name. In Schedule 4, you have to provide their representation in Rajya Sabha. There will be change, but these changes are consequential. These changes are incidental. These changes are supplemental in nature and shall not be deemed as amendment to the Constitution. When they're not amendment, that means you don't need special majority. Then what do you need? Simple majority. Simple. That's Article 4 for you. Any questions as of now? Is GST bill came into existence under this amendment? Yes. When GST was passed by both houses of the parliament, it was sent to all the state legislatures. When more than half of them said, yes, we agree, only then GST was implemented. Because GST was basically change in Schedule 7, distribution of powers, which is a federal feature. And to change a federal feature, you need ratification by more than half of the states. Does every constitutional amendment require ratification of state? No, only those which affect the federal feature. And we will discuss that in constitutional amendment. When we will discuss how constitution is amended, I'll tell you which are these features which require ratification by half of the states. Crystal clear, okay. If 500 is present and voting, then 2/3 is calculated on 500 or 543. 543 is the total strength of the house. If 500 are present and voting, 2/3 means 2/3 of the members present and voting. So 500 you have to use. Can the president return this constitutional amendment bill? President cannot return a constitutional amendment bill. President has only one power, one role to play in a constitutional amendment bill. He has to sign it. That's it. But sir, India is not fully federal. It is quasi-federal. So how can federalism be part of the constitution? What is constitution after all? Basic thing. Who is the final interpreter of the constitution? Not you, not me, the Supreme Court. What is constitution? Basically, whatever Supreme Court says it to be. And Supreme Court has said federalism is part of the basic structure. Hands down, accept it. Because the final interpreter is the Supreme Court. Sham, what's your question? Sir, why president has so limited powers? Because we are a parliamentary democracy, where cabinet has more powers, prime minister has more powers, not the president. What is the real need of consultative process when it doesn't affect the final decision of the president? Maybe something will come out of these views. Maybe something we can incorporate in this bill. This is to consult them. Let's say I consult you. Should I be teaching slowly? I'm just consulting you. That doesn't mean it should be binding on me. I'm consulting you. In how many hours do you want to study judiciary? You say in 1 hour. In 1 hour, it's not possible. We have to take at least 7 hours. Right? What is effective majority? We will discuss effective majority when we will reach the office of the vice president. So previously, I used to teach all these different types of majorities together with the hope that when I discuss other provisions of the constitution, there I should only mention that this bill requires effective majority or simple majority or special majority. But even at that time, I had to explain what is effective majority. So now I've changed my strategy. Whenever there is a requirement, I will mention the majority and explain it. Consultation and concurrence is the same? No. So how can we know that a particular bill requires simple or special majority? It is mentioned in the constitution. Question, sir. Article 2, union is mentioned. It means union of state which do not include union territories. Where is union mentioned in Article 2? Article 2 says Parliament may by law admit into India or establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. There are only two types of special majority. Are there more? We have discussed three types. This is one, this is two, this is three. Majority of the total membership of the House, majority of the two-third members present and voting, plus ratification of the state. This is third type. There is one more which is used to impeach the president. Article 1, Article 2 mention only states. Union territories are specifically mentioned in Article 3, Article 1, Clause 3, which says territory of India shall consist of states, union territories, and acquired territories. So let's take a break and we will meet at 8:05. See you on the other side of the break. Now let's look at the history of reorganization in India. In 1947, when India gained independence, and then in 1950, when the constitution was enacted, at that time, the entire country was divided into various parts. So there were some areas which were under Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D. Under Part A, there were the provinces, there were the areas which were under the Governor General. For example, when you will study, or if you have already studied modern history, there was an institution known as the Governor General. And all the states were under Governor General. For example, Bombay, Madras, these were the areas which were under Governor General. And they were part of Part A states. Then we had Part B territories, which were previously princely states. And you would know these princely states then joined the Union of India, and they were made part of Part B states. For example, Jammu and Kashmir, Hyderabad. These were the areas, Mysore, which were under Part B. Then there were Part C territories. For example, during the colonial period, during the British period, there were some areas which were not under Governor General, but which were under Chief Commissioner. Those areas such as Delhi, Coorg, these were under Part C territories. And under Part D, there was only one territory known as Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So long story short, in 1950, when the constitution was enacted, we had Part A areas, Part B areas, Part C areas, Part D areas. Part A areas, which were previously under Governor General, for example, Bombay, for example, Madras, so on and so forth. Part B, which were previously princely states. Part C, which were previously under Chief Commissioner. Part D, Andaman and Nicobar. Now the question was, how do we reorganize this entire country? Because there was a demand. The demand was that we should reorganize the country on linguistic lines. Linguistic lines in the sense, states should be created in the name of language. So all the Tamil speaking population, they should come under one state, because right now they are spread. All the Telugu speaking population should come under one state, because right now they are spread. So that was the demand. The demand was, let's reorganize the country in the name of language. One language, one state. For that, initially a commission was set up, which was headed by S.K. Dhar, known as the Dhar Commission, in June 1948. This Dhar Commission was asked by the government, can you please tell us how should we reorganize the country? And Dhar Commission said, language should not be the basis of reorganization. Reorganization should be done on the basis of administrative convenience. And what is that administrative convenience? For example, if there is a bigger state with massive area, with massive population, it becomes difficult to govern that state. Because it has a massive population, it is geographically spread over large area, it becomes difficult to manage this area. There is something known as, if you are a student of public administration, something known as span of attention or span of control. For example, if I'm an individual, how many individuals can I control? If I have a team, my span of control would mean how many individual members can I control effectively? I can control 100 people, for example. I cannot manage 10,000 people together. If I have to manage 10,000 people, then you would say, how does the CEO of a company manage 10,000 people? He does not manage them individually. He has a lot of managers or presidents or vice presidents who manage individual cohorts, individual set of 100 people or 200 people. Similarly, if there is an area which is geographically spread over large distances, it becomes difficult to manage such a state. And the commission said, create states based on administrative convenience. If a state is large, if a state is vast with massive population, we can split that state. But not on the grounds of language. We should not be creating states in the name of language. Why? Because then it may lead to weakening central control. In the sense, 1947, the country was partitioned. Unfortunately, on the grounds of religion. Because Jinnah said, two-nation theory, Hindus and Muslims are two separate nations with different ideologies, different aspirations. They cannot be part of one single country. So if religion became the basis for the partition of this country, tomorrow language can become the reason for the partition of this country. The Tamils may want a separate country of their own. The Telugu-speaking population may want a separate country of their own. The Odia-speaking population may want a separate country of their own. So we need to ensure that the states are reorganized in this country in such a manner that the primary objective should be how do we effectively manage that state, administer that state. Language should not be the basis for reorganization. Few months later, December 1948, another commission was set up. This commission is known as JVP Commission. Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and Patabi Sitaramaya. These were the three individuals who were part of this commission. Patabi Sitaramaya, whether you know him or not, he was the one who was popped up by Mahatma Gandhi that you contest Congress president's election against Subhash Chandra Bose. Because Subhash Chandra Bose does not listen to me. He's very radical in his ideology, in his outlook. He believes I am responsible for all the sins and ills of this country. But Subhash Chandra Bose defeated Patabi Sitaramaya. And when Patabi Sitaramaya lost election, Mahatma Gandhi said, it is not his loss, it is my loss. I have lost this election. But be that as it may, these three individuals were part of this commission known as JVP Commission. And the mandate given to this commission was, you tell us, how should we reorganize this country? And JVP committee said the same thing. Administrative convenience, not language, should be the basis for reorganization. Otherwise, there is a danger that the country may further split, may further be partitioned. This time not on religious lines, but on linguistic lines. Then came Mr. Polity Sriramulu. He was a Gandhian, a follower of Mahatma Gandhi. His primary intention was that there are Telugu-speaking population. There are Telugu-speaking areas, which currently are under Mysore or under Madras and some other areas. What my primary intention is, all these Telugu-speaking areas should be merged together to create a linguistic state known as Andhra. So his primary objective was to create a state in the name of language for the Telugu-speaking population. Presented his demand, the government did not agree. Why? Because the government has said. The Dar Commission says not on the grounds of language. JVP committee says not on the grounds of language, only on the basis of administrative convenience. Otherwise, we will witness, unfortunately, another partition of this country. Polity Sriramulu, he went on a hunger strike. He went on fast unto death, and ultimately he passed away. When he passed away, there were a series of protests. Unfortunate deaths also happened in the Telugu-speaking areas. And unfortunately, when there were lots of deaths, the government succumbed to the pressure, and the government said, okay, let's create a linguistic state. The first linguistic state in independent India was created in October 1953, and that state became Andhra. Even before that, we had a linguistic state, a state created in the name of language. That was Odisha, or Orissa, as it was called then, but that was in pre-independent India, before the independence. After the independence, the first state which was carved out in the name of language was Andhra, when all the Andhra's Telugu-speaking areas were merged together to create a linguistic state known as Andhra. But then the government said, we can't be doing this, reorganizing the country just by looking at the protests coming from a different part or a specific part. We need to have a proper mechanism in place. How do we reorganize the entire country? Let's set up another commission. And that was known as the States Reorganization Commission. There were three members in this commission: Fazal Ali, H.N. Kunzru, K.M. Panikar. These three individuals were tasked, you now tell us, how do we reorganize the entire country in the light of Andhra being created as the first linguistic state in independent India? The States Reorganization Commission met in 1953, submitted its report in December 1955, and basis this report, States Reorganization Act was passed in 1956. And the States Reorganization Commission accepted that yes, language can be the basis for reorganization. But it rejected one language, one state. The States Reorganization Commission said, okay, language can be the basis to reorganize the country, to create states in India. But it cannot be one language, one state. Which means explicit. In its report, the States Reorganization Commission said, administrative convenience has to be an important factor. What does that mean? States Reorganization Commission, which was set up in December 1953, met for close to 2 years, submitted its report in September 1955. This State Reorganization Commission said, yes, language can be the basis for reorganization. Why? Because in 1947, when we had Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D states, that commission was asked in 1948, how do we reorganize the country? That commission said, not on the basis of language, only on the basis of administrative convenience. JVP committee in December 1948 said, language, no. Administrative convenience, yes, can be the basis for reorganization. Then constitution was enacted. Then Poti Sriramulu went on hunger strike, and then he passed away, unfortunately. And then Andhra was created as a linguistic state. After the creation of Andhra Pradesh as the first linguistic state in independent India, the government decided to appoint a States Reorganization Commission. 3 members were part of this commission. They were asked, please tell us, what is the rationale that we should follow and how do we reorganize the country? The States Reorganization Commission said, yes, now language can be the basis of reorganization. Why? Because once we have created Andhra, why and how can we discriminate against others? So let's accept that states can be created in the name of language. But one language, one state, no. If it was one language is equal to one state, which means the entire Tamil speaking population can become a one state, that is still okay because there's still a small majority of people who speak Tamil. Telugu speaking population can have one state, that's okay. Kannada speaking population can have one state, that's still okay. Malayalam speaking population can have one state, that's okay. But what about Hindi? Hindi is spoken by the entire North India, including Central India. Does that mean there will be no UP, no MP, no Bihar and other areas, Rajasthan, and all these areas in North India or Central India will become one state because one language is equal to one state? Then we cannot govern this state because this would be a massive state in terms of geographical spread, in terms of population. So it can be that language can be the basis of reorganization, but one language, one state, no. We can have multiple states speaking the same language as well, because administrative convenience is the most important factor in reorganizing the country. Some of its recommendations were accepted, some were not accepted, and ultimately in 1956, States Reorganization Act was passed. And because of this act, 14 states and 6 union territories were established. That means this Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D differentiation, it was abolished in 1956. Instead, 14 states and 6 UTs were created. Why union territories were also created? We will discuss that in the union territories chapter. But this is how the states were reorganized. In hindsight, when we look at what happened after that, Punjab was divided into Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh. We saw Bombay was reorganized. We saw Goa became first a union territory, then a state. We saw that in 2000, 3 more states were carved out. Then we saw in 2014, Telangana was carved out. Then we also saw in 2021, Daman and Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. These were 2 union territories. These 2 union territories were merged into one. So more and more reorganization has taken place even after 1956. But now the question is that there are experts who say we need a second States Reorganization Commission. Why second States Reorganization Commission? Because the first commission was set up in 1956. It's more than 70, it's close to 70 years now. We need a second States Reorganization Commission. Why? Because there are now demands coming from other sections of the society. There's a demand that UP is becoming unmanageable, despite a very efficient chief minister. It's becoming unmanageable because of its vast area, massive population. We need to trifurcate Uttar Pradesh, because there is a demand that Harit Pradesh should be carved out from UP. Bundelkhand region in UP should become a separate state. Same goes with Rajasthan. Maru Pradesh An area should be carved out from Rajasthan because Rajasthan is becoming a difficult state to govern because of its massive size and population. Similarly, an area, the coffee plantation area in Karnataka, Coorg, there the people are demanding that we need a union territory status. We should not be part of Karnataka. Vidarbh region in Maharashtra, where lots and lots of unfortunate farmer suicides are happening, they're demanding a separate state altogether. Why? Same logic as was given by the people of Telangana. Telangana people said that the people from Rayalaseema region, from coastal Andhra, they get access to government jobs, they get access to scholarships, they get access to government resources, they get access to important opportunities. And the people of Telangana region have been subjugated. Whether right or wrong, we don't know, but that was the allegation, that was the concern. And ultimately, Andhra was bifurcated into Andhra and Telangana. Same is the case with Maharashtra as well. People of Vidarbha region say that we are being discriminated against. We need a separate state. Bundelkhand area say we are being discriminated against by the majority in Uttar Pradesh, in Lucknow, and in other areas. We need a separate state. Similarly, in Assam, Bodos demand a separate state altogether. In West Bengal, Gorkhas demand a separate land altogether, the Gorkha land. So when the demand is coming from various states, various areas, it is high time that we establish a second states reorganization commission so that second states reorganization commission can look into the viability of more states. And for that, we need to understand this is a very important topic for your mains examination. Was it right to reorganize the country in the name of language? Should language have been used as a tool for the reorganization of the country? For that, let's look at the arguments given by Ramachandra Guha, a historian. Dar Commission, JVP committee said language cannot be the basis of reorganization. What was the concern in their mind? That if the country was divided in the name of religion, now the country will be divided in the name of language, because you will be closely associated and aligned with your language. So national identity would take a back seat. Your regional identity would be very prominent. And ultimately, it will lead to some areas coming out of the Union of India. But has that happened? No. Instead, creating states in the name of language has strengthened unity in India. How? Ramachandra Guha cites the example of our neighbors. For example, Pakistan. For example, Sri Lanka. Pakistan was created in the name of religion. But even this religion could not act as a glue to keep Pakistan united. Because there was West Pakistan, there was East Pakistan. Clear? Look at the map. West Pakistan, East Pakistan. Because the country was divided in the name of religion. Islam was the major religion in both areas, West Pakistan, East Pakistan. But in West Pakistan, Urdu was spoken. Punjabi was spoken. And in East Pakistan, Bengali was spoken. These Bengalis were looked down upon by those speaking Urdu and Punjabi in West Pakistan. And a leader emerged, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in East Pakistan, a Bengali, won the election and almost became the Prime Minister of Pakistan. The Urdu-speaking, the Punjabi-speaking population said, how can a Bengali become our Prime Minister? We will not let it happen. And ultimately, East Pakistan population was subjugated by the people of West Pakistan. Ultimately, India came into the picture. Indira Gandhi was responsible for that. There was a war between India and Pakistan in 1971, which led to the emergence of Bangladesh as an independent country. That means the members of East Pakistan, the subjects of East Pakistan, the citizens of East Pakistan, although they were Muslims, but they spoke a different language, a language which was discriminated against. Their language was not respected. Their language was not given its due. Ultimately, what happened? The country got partitioned. The country got dismembered. Bangladesh emerged as a different country because the language was not respected. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, the Buddhist majority speaking Sinhala as a language. Sinhalese majority. And the Tamil minority, they were discriminated against. Sinhala became the official language, Tamil was discriminated. The Tamil minority, they were subjugated. What happened in Sri Lanka? There was a civil war between the Sinhalese majority and the Tamil minority. And this war, LTTE played an important role. Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. On language, LTTE said, under Prabhakaran, LTTE said that there is eastern and northern part of Sri Lanka where Tamil is an important language. In this northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka, a separate Tamil Eelam, a separate Tamil country should be created because our language is not respected. It led to a civil war between the Sinhalese and the Tamils. And this war was crushed in the year 2009, but it led to the deaths of lakhs of people. Millions of the people were displaced because the language was not respected. Ramachandra Guha says same thing might have happened in India if language was not respected. Language was not respected in East Pakistan, the country got split. Language was not respected in Sri Lanka, there was a civil war. Language was respected in India, that's why we are united. So we gave regional identity to the people. Tamils have their own identity. Telugu speaking population have their own identity. Kannadigas have their own identity. Malayalis have their own identity. Odias have their own identity. That means since language was respected, ultimately country stayed united. So it was right on part of the policy makers in 1950s to create states in the name of language. But at the same time, there are those who say small is beautiful. Small is beautiful in the sense, if United States can have 50 states, clearly India can also have more than 28 states. Why can't we create more and more smaller states? Should more and more smaller states be created? Some say yes, some say no. They take the example of Uttarakhand, take the example of Goa, take the example of smaller states and compare them UP, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Bihar, and other big states. Is small beautiful? In a sense, should more and more smaller states be created? One argument, one school of thought says, yes, more and more smaller states should be created. Why? Look at the performance of the states in India. If I were to ask you today, which is the most developed state in India, what is the answer? Kerala is in terms of human development index, but more developed in terms of per capita income, in terms of infrastructure. The most developed state is Goa, followed by Uttarakhand. Goa is a smaller state. Uttarakhand is a state which is carved out from UP. UP is still lagging behind. Uttarakhand has surpassed it, which basically means that small is beautiful. Smaller the state, more equitable the development becomes. Because if the state is large, for example, UP, you may not be able to focus on the entire length and breadth of UP. But if the state is smaller, you will be able to, just like span of control, span of attention. Your span of attention is you cannot study for more than an hour, or you cannot write an answer for more than 3 hours. After that, you will say, I just don't want to do this. Span of attention. Similarly, if the state is larger, massive, your span of attention, you may not be able to give attention to all the areas of that state. But if the state is smaller, you will give equal attention to all the areas. It will lead to equitable development, something that we have witnessed in Goa, something that we have witnessed in Uttarakhand. So for equitable development, small is beautiful. Let's have more and more smaller states. But even the smaller state, if we create, the smaller state Let's say, for example, here is a state. This particular area of the state, allegation is that we are being discriminated against by these people. So more and more resources are being spent here, more and more industries are being opened here, more and more jobs are being created here, more and more infrastructure is being created here, and this area has been discriminated against. What will this area demand? Demand a separate state. When it will demand a separate state, can we give in to this demand or not? That state's reorganization commission should decide, not the political class. Why? Because politics will always be for votes. A technical committee such as the States Reorganization Commission should look into this demand, keeping in mind whether this state can survive on its own. If this particular area lacks resources, is a hilly area where no industrialization is possible, where there are no resources for the development, that means this area, even if it is created into a different state, will always be with the begging bowl before the center. Center give us more funds to sustain ourselves because we can't sustain on our own. On top of that, we have investment. Investment in the sense, we need money for constructing legislative assembly. We need money for the construction of the state secretariat. We need to pay to our officers. We need to pay to our governor. We need to have a separate high court. So much infrastructure development has to take place. But you don't have any means to generate your own money. You will always be with the begging bowl before the center. Such a state should not be created. But who will decide that? The political class or a technical committee such as the States Reorganization Commission? That's something that we need to find out. If the small was beautiful, then my dear, what's happening in Manipur? A smaller state, but where the two tribes are at each other's throats. Manipur, it has hilly areas, it has plains as well, or should we say valley. Valley is dominated by a tribe by a group known as the Métis. Hilly areas are dominated by tribes such as Zo, Kokis, some Nagas as well. But valley is the area where the standard of living is better, where there are some employment opportunities. In valley sense, in Manipur, we have 60 MLAs in the Legislative Assembly. 40 MLAs are sent by the valley. 20 MLAs are sent by the hilly areas. And now these hilly areas, the tribes, what they claim that they are being discriminated against. By whom? By the dominant Métis. They sent 40 MLAs to the Legislative Assembly. Even the Chief Minister, Mr. Biren Singh, is a Métis. So even if there is a small state, it may happen that even in the small state, there may be a tribe, there may be a group, there may be a caste group, which is more dominant and will discriminate against others, against the minorities. Such a situation should not arise. That means small may be beautiful, but even then we have to be more careful. States reorganization should come into the picture and decide how should we reorganize the country. And that completes our discussion on part 1 of the Constitution. Let's recap. Part 1 of the Constitution deals with union and its territory, where we discussed articles 1 to 4. Article 1 says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. That means we have two names for this country, but even though we are a federal polity, but the term used is India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Then we discussed that the names of all the states and territories are mentioned in Schedule 1. The territory of India shall consist of either we can have states, or we can have union territories, or we can have acquired territories. Article 2 says Parliament may by law admit into India or establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. The example of that is Sikkim. Article 3 says Parliament may by law. What it can do, it can pass a law. Through what majority? Simple majority. What it can do, it can divide a state, merge states, increase the area, decrease the area, alter the boundaries, change the name of a state. But for that, a consultative process has to be followed. And that is how we discuss the examples of Andhra Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. But whenever Parliament is enacting a law under Article 3, there will result change in Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. Because if Andhra Pradesh is to be bifurcated into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the name Telangana has to be mentioned in first schedule, which means you have to change first schedule. If Andhra Pradesh had 18 MPs, now because of the bifurcation, 11 MPs will be from Andhra, 8 MPs will be from Telangana in Andhra Pradesh, in Rajya Sabha. For that, we need to change, amend, modify Schedule 4 as well. But we discussed Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill, or a bill under Article 3 needs to be passed by simple majority. But constitution can be amended only by special majority. This is possible because of Article 4. Because Article 4 says a law passed under Article 2 or a law passed under Article 3 will result in changes to Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. But these changes are incidental, coincidental, consequential matters and shall not be deemed as amendment to the Constitution. That means these changes can be made by simple majority, not by special majority. But when we look at the territory of India, initially we had Part A, B, C, D territory classification. The question arose, how should we reorganize the country? Dar Commission said, not on the basis of language, on the basis of administrative convenience. JVP committee said, not on the basis of language, on the basis of administrative convenience. But ultimately, Poti Sriramalu, when he passed away, when Andhra was created in the name of language, then the States Reorganization Commission was set up, and it accepted language can be the basis for reorganization, but rejected one language, one state formula. And then 14 states and 6 union territories got created. Now we are saying we need a second States Reorganization Commission. Why? Because number one, there are demands from various areas. Bundelkhand, Harit Pradesh, Manu Pradesh, Coorg, Vidarbh, Bodoland, so many, Gorkha land in West Bengal, so many demands coming from different sections of the society. We need to tackle these demands. Otherwise, we will witness the same situation as we saw in Andhra Pradesh, as we saw during the Telangana movement, when there were protests, when there were series of protests and destruction of property in Telangana because of these protests. If small is beautiful, then we may need more and more smaller states. But does more and more smaller states solve the problem? That should be looked into by the States Reorganization Commission. Whether a smaller state is able to self-sustain, or will it always be with a begging bowl before the center? If smaller states are doing well, for example, Goa or Uttarakhand, then it's a classic case that yes, more and more smaller states should be created. But smaller states such as Manipur has its own set of problems. Smaller states such as Jharkhand, unknown for stable polity. Unknown in the sense, we say there are two important advantages of a smaller state. One, equitable development, because development will reach all areas of that state because span of attention is less. Second, stable polity. Stable polity in the sense that it will give us a stable government. Stable government in the sense that there will be less and less chances of multiple parties contesting the election and winning few seats here and there. There will be one party which will be able to get the majority, which basically means no coalition government, which basically means stable polity. But Jharkhand is not known for stable polity, except this term of Mr. Hemant Soren, and prior to that, Mr. Raghubir Yadav or Raghubir Das. Jharkhand never had a stable government. Multiple chief ministers were changed. In fact, it came to a point where one independent MLA, Mr. Madhukoda, became the chief minister. Independence, single individual. Why? Because he told BJP, if you will not support me, I'll go to the Congress. He told Congress, if you will not support me, I'll go to the BJP. And ultimately, this individual became the chief minister. So Jharkhand is not known for stable polity. So there are some advantages of a smaller state. There are some disadvantages of a smaller state. But it depends upon how States Reorganization Commission, once it is set up, will look at all these individual cases. Done? States Reorganization Commission still exists? No, it was abolished once the States Reorganization Act was passed. Sir, the exchange of territories part with Bangladesh isn't required. That will be discussed in international relations, in India-Bangladesh relations. Not relevant now. Madhukoda looted Jharkhand. I don't know. That you will have to tell me. Does Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act talk about statehood of J&K or just UT with Legislative Assembly? Just UT with Legislative Assembly. For constitutional amendment, special majority type 2 is used. Then for what purpose special majority type 1 is used? For example, Article 249, when Parliament can make a law on state list. I told you there is something known as distribution of powers. Union list, state list, concurrent list. Who has the power to make a law on state list? State legislature. But there is an instance. If Rajya Sabha passes a resolution by two-thirds of the members present and voting, which is flavor 1 of special majority, then Parliament can make a law on state list. But that can happen only if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution by special majority. When will you discuss PYQs? We will discuss them every Friday, but not this Friday because we haven't discussed much. Because the classes started on Wednesday. We'll discuss next Friday. Sham is asking, what is the meaning if only special majority is mentioned? What does this mean? Is this mean first type special majority, type 2 special majority? Constitution does not say special majority. Constitution will explain. Let's say, for example, to amend the constitution, a bill should be passed by the majority of two-thirds members present and voting and majority of the total membership of the House. This whole statement would be written. There is no class tomorrow. We will meet on Monday. The classes happen Monday to Friday. Why UTs are not merged with the states? Why are they administered by the central government? That is why I told you we will discuss union territories separately in a separate chapter. Please go through the topics that we are going to cover. The class schedule. On day 1, what is to be covered? Day 2, what is to be covered? Day 3, what is to be covered? That's mentioned there. Some UTs have a legislative assembly, some not. Why? If I start explaining everything today, polity would be over. But I can't complete Indian polity just today. That is why we give 25 classes. So hold your horses. In UT chapter, I will explain this. Again, why do we need UTs? My dear, how many times will I tell you? UT chapter will be discussed separately. There we will explain it. If you have any questions on union and its territory, which is part 1, let me know. Otherwise, I will jump to part 2, which is citizenship. Is making running notes important? Yes. Two more minutes. I'm just reading the questions. If there is a good question that needs to be answered, I will answer. Otherwise, we will jump to citizenship. Independent MLA means an MLA which does not belong to any political party. For example, I want to contest elections from Amethi constituency in UP. I went to Congress. Please give me ticket so that I can contest elections. They gave ticket to Rahul Gandhi. I went to BJP. They gave ticket to Shrimati Irani. I went to Samajwadi Party. Samajwadi Party said, we will give you a ticket, but we have asked our party members to vote for Rahul Gandhi. So you will not win. And say, okay, I'll contest on my own as an independent without any affiliation to any political party. If I get elected, I become an independent MP or an independent MLA. Can a UT be divided by the center and made into a state? Yes. We have instances, for example, Himachal Pradesh was a union territory. Goa was a union territory. Now they are states. Majority of the states in Northeast India, they were union territories converted into states. Berubari Union will also be discussed in IR if it is relevant now. Otherwise, no. Is Delhi a state or a union territory? It's a union territory. Don't you think Citizenship Amendment Act is illogical? My dear, we did not even start it. Wait. Can state be transformed into a UT? Athar, what were we discussing right now? Jammu and Kashmir converted into a UT. What's the difference between National Capital Territory and a Union Territory? Wait, my dear. We'll discuss that in Union Territories chapter. Okay. Can a state be downgraded into a UT? What do you think the answer is? Was Jammu and Kashmir a state? Was it downgraded to that of a UT? So the answer to your question is yes. Any UT with a high court. Patience is an important virtue. We'll discuss that in Union Territory chapter. But if you want an answer now, Jammu and Kashmir UT and Delhi UT, these are the only UTs which have their own high court. Otherwise, all the UTs, they come under the neighboring states high court. Clear? Varman, what's your question, please? Okay. Let's now look at part 2 of the Constitution, citizenship. Here we will have to discuss articles 5 to 11. But articles 5 to 10 are not of much significance for the exam now. Article 11 is important and we will discuss Article 11 in great detail. But first up, what do we mean by citizenship? Normally, citizenship is a matter which is left to legislature. Legislature in the sense, parliament is allowed, parliaments in all the countries, which basically means the government of the day is asked to decide who can be the citizen of your country, who cannot become the citizen of your country. It's a political decision that is to be taken. Normally, this matter citizenship is not mentioned in the Constitution. Why? Because Constitution is difficult to change, isn't it? That's why it requires tougher majority, special majority. But the laws passed by the legislature, they require simple majority. So citizenship is normally a matter which is left to the legislature, so that once the time changes, you can change your approach to citizenship as well. But India was unique. Why? Because in 1947, when the country was partitioned, unfortunately on the grounds of religion, it was not only the partition of the land, there was a massive migration of millions of people from India to what became Pakistan, from what became Pakistan to India. And in 1950, when we gave ourselves a constitution, we had to be sure of a lot of things. And one such thing was, who is the citizen of India? In a sense, we had to be absolutely sure for whom do we need protection, resources, housing, food. What is going to be the status of those who migrated from India to what became Pakistan? And if they want to come back, till what time can they come back? Till what date can they come back? Those who were in Pakistan and now they want to come to India, can they come to India or not? That is why this citizenship chapter was mentioned in the Constitution itself. Otherwise, it is a matter which is left to the political class. It is a matter which is left to the legislature. You decide based on the changing times who can become the citizen, who cannot become the citizen, what are the ways by which you can become the citizen of this country. But since the partition happened, and then it involved a massive migration of millions of people from India to Pakistan, from Pakistan to India, we had to be absolutely sure on 26 January 1950, who are the citizens of India? But what is citizenship? All those people who you see right now in India, we can divide them into two broad groups. Either you are citizens or you are aliens. It's not an alien like Jadoo, Hrithik Roshan's, what's that movie? It's not that alien. Alien is basically a Latin word which basically means stranger or a foreigner. So all the people who are residing within the territory of India, some of them are citizens, some of them are foreigners or aliens. For example, US citizens coming to India for some work or business, some people coming to India for medical tourism, some people coming to India for tourism, some people coming to India for educational opportunities, some people coming to India for terrorism, whatever the case may be. So the entire population that we see right now can be divided into citizens or aliens. And who are these citizens? They enjoy full civil and political rights. Only the citizens can vote. Only the citizens can get government jobs. Only the citizens can contest elections. And there are some rights, some fundamental rights, which are exclusively available to citizens. Next week, we will discuss fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are available to citizens as well as aliens, citizens as well as foreigners. But there are some fundamental rights which are exclusively available to citizens. And there are 5 such fundamental rights. Article 15, 16, 19, 29, and 30. That is why we say citizens enjoy full civil and political rights. Full civil rights in the sense they enjoy all the fundamental rights. Full political rights, only they can vote, they can contest elections, they can apply for government jobs. Aliens cannot enjoy all these fundamental rights. And what are these fundamental rights? We will discuss in fundamental rights chapter. But citizenship as a concept involves two things. Two things in the sense, first you should say, I am a citizen of India. Then the government should accept, yes, you are a citizen of India. So it is like a beautiful, romantic, symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship in the sense where the state gives you rights and citizens, as citizens, you have duties towards the state. So it's like a give and take. It's a beautiful, romantic relationship. But it involves two things. First, you have to say, I am the citizen. And the state should accept, yes, you are a citizen. For example, there are illegal migrants coming to India who say, we are the citizens. Unless and until government accepts them, they cannot become citizens. So it is like a legal acceptance by the state. State has to legally accept that you are our citizen. So basically, citizenship, it determines a person's full political membership, permanent allegiance to that country, and the legal acceptance by the state that you are part of this political setup. Still not clear? I understand. That is why the best definition of citizenship is given by American professor Hannah Arendt, wherein she says citizenship is the right to have the rights. If I'm the citizen of India, I have the right to contest elections. I have the right to get a government job. I have the right to vote in the elections. I have the right to buy property in India. So citizenship is basically a right which is given to you. And it is because of this right that you enjoy every other right, every other civil right, every other political right. But for that, the state has to accept that, yes, you are the citizen of this country. You have to prove it. And once you prove it, the state accepts you. Now you have a right for all other rights. And there is no such thing as dual citizenship. Dual citizenship, for example, something in United States. There are two aspects to dual citizenship. One, in United States, you are a citizen of United States, but you are the citizen of a state in United States as well. For example, if you are from Chicago, you are a citizen of Chicago as well as United States. Citizen of Florida as well as United States. Citizen of Illinois as well as United States. citizen of Michigan as well as United States. In India, you are only a citizen of India. You are not a citizen of Madhya Pradesh and India, Uttar Pradesh and India, Rajasthan and India. You are only the citizen of India. There is no such thing as citizen of India as well as the citizen of a state. You may be a domicile of Rajasthan. You're residing in Rajasthan, which means you are a domicile of Rajasthan. You may be a domicile of Karnataka. You may be a domicile of Maharashtra, but you're only and only the citizen of India. The other aspect of dual citizenship is in US, you can be the citizen of US, you can be the citizen of Canada as well. You can be the citizen of US, you can be the citizen of any other country as well. But India values single citizenship. Single citizenship in the sense that you are only and only citizen of India. You cannot be the citizen of any other country at the same time as well. Akshay Kumar, the Khiladi #1, right now making a lot of patriotic movies. Somebody called him out and said, but you are a Canadian citizen. And as Canadian citizen, you are now making patriotic movies in India. He said, okay, I will apply for Indian citizenship. Applied for Indian citizenship, and this year he became the citizen of India. But he is now only and only the citizen of India. He is not the citizen of India as well as Canada, because we do not value dual citizenship. Now you might ask, sir, why? There's no answer. Maybe the Indian state want to be that possessive lover that you can be only mine and no one else's. Maybe that's the reason. But citizenship, basically, part 2 of the Constitution, dealing with Articles 5 to 11, what is citizenship basically? It is a symbiotic relationship that individuals share with the state. A give and take, where the state gives you rights and you in return have duties towards the state. This citizenship is basically the right, and once you have this right of citizenship, you can enjoy other rights. But the state has to legally accept that you are the citizen of India. Once the state accepts that you are the citizen of India, that means the state is giving you the right of citizenship, then you can enjoy other rights. But why this chapter is there in the Constitution is because we have to be absolutely sure who are our citizens. That is why Articles 5 to 10, they basically deal with who is the citizen of India on 26 January 1950. Those who have stayed in India for the last 5 years continuously. All those who have stayed in India for the last 5 years continuously, they are the citizens of India. Those who went to Pakistan and now want to come back, they can come back by July 1948. If you come back after that, you will not become the citizen of India. What will happen to those who have come from Pakistan to India? All that is mentioned under Article 5 to 10. That is why I told you it was relevant then. It is no longer relevant today. But Article 11 gives power to the Parliament that you can regulate all matters related to citizenship. What is citizenship? We know that. Legal acceptance, which gives you full civil and political rights. Only the civilians have all the political rights. Only the civilians have all the fundamental rights. Aliens do not enjoy 5 fundamental rights. But Articles 5 to 10, they talk about the situation which was there in 1950. Right now in 1950, on 26 January 1950, who is the citizen of India? That's mentioned in the Constitution. All those who have given up Indian citizenship cannot continue as the Indian citizens. That was mentioned then. If there are Indians who migrated to Pakistan and now came back before July 1948, they can become Indian citizens. So who was a citizen, who cannot become the citizen on 26 January 1950, that is mentioned in Article 5 to 10. But after that, Constitution cannot lay down a permanent law for citizenship, because that's for the legislature to decide. That is why Article 11 gives power to the legislature, dear Parliament, you decide who can become the citizen of India now, later, who cannot become the Indian citizen. How can you acquire Indian citizenship? How can you lose your Indian citizenship? For all those things, Constitution, we have decided what happens today. You decide what happens later. You are free to do whatever you want to do. That's Article 11. And Article 11 was used to pass the Citizenship Act in 1955, which regulates all matters related to citizenship. Who can become the citizen, when, how, what not. And it is this Citizenship Amendment, it is this Citizenship Act of 1955 which has been amended multiple times. In 57, in 85, in 86, in 92, 2003, 2005, 2015, and the last one was in 2019, known as the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. Let's discuss what is the Citizenship Act. Then we will discuss the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 because the matter is before the court. And then we will discuss concepts such as what is NRC, National Register of Citizens? What is NPR, National Population Register? We will discuss what is census and how census is different from other exercises. All that we will discuss one by one. Any questions as of now? What is the concept of NRI also? We will discuss. Sir, caste census, good or bad? I did not discuss census. Neither did I discuss caste census. And you want to know whether it is good or bad. Patience, my dear, patience. OCI also we will discuss. Adnan Sami will be discussed in this chapter. Yes. Article 2 is used to convert UT into a state. Can be used to convert UT into a state. Sir, for amending Citizenship Act, is special majority required? What do you think? Can you tell me in the comment section, to amend Citizenship Act, what type of majority is required? Majority is right. Simple majority. My dear, this Indian Citizenship Act 1955, it is not there in the Constitution. It is a law passed by Parliament. That is why I told you in the first class, it's basically an ordinary law. And an ordinary law requires simple majority. Only if you want to amend the Constitution, that requires tougher majority, special majority. Article 11 gives power to the Parliament that you pass a law, and through that law, you regulate matters related to citizenship. Parliament passed a law, Citizenship Act, by simple majority. And it is this simple majority act which talks about what are the ways by which one can acquire citizenship. There are 5 ways by which one can acquire the citizenship of India. There are 3 ways by which you can lose your citizenship of India according to this act. Let's discuss all these one by one. First is acquisition by birth. Because Constitution said in 1950, all those who are born on the soil of India, they are the citizens of India. Then, all those who are residing in India for 5 years continuously, they are the citizens of India. But it was then. After that, what will happen? For that, we have a law passed by the Parliament called Citizenship Act 1955. It lays down the rules. How can one acquire Indian citizenship? The first way is by birth. And by birth, we need to understand there is a concept known as jus soli and jus sanguini. Jus soli means law of the soil. Jus sanguini means law of the blood. Seema Haider illegally and asked for citizenship, then can India grant citizenship to her? That's why I'm here. Listen to me calmly, patiently. Once citizenship chapter is over, after that, if you have any doubts, let me know. But let's go with the flow, one by one. Jus soli, jus sanguini. For example, in United States of America, they follow the concept of law of the soil. Whoever is born on the soil of United States is the citizen of United States. Doesn't matter whether father is the citizen of US or not, mother is the citizen of US or not, whether they are legal or illegal migrant, doesn't matter. The child is born on the soil of United States, the child is the citizen of United States. And the soil of United States includes the air of United States as well, the aerial territory of the United States as well. the aerial space of the territory as well. And this I have told in previous classes as well. There was once a lady, she was 9 months pregnant, traveling from Hong Kong to United States, although you should not travel at that time, but she managed somehow. And once the plane was cruising towards United States, she entered into labor. And then there were some people who tried to help her in the flight. She refused help. She said, first tell me whether we have entered the US airspace or not, whether this plane has crossed the US airspace or not. The passenger said, no, not yet. She said, I'll wait. As soon as the plane entered the US airspace, she delivered a baby child, a baby girl. Why? Because her principal intention was that this baby girl should be this baby should be the citizen of United States. Because whoever is born on the soil of United States becomes the citizen of United States, regardless of whether your father, mother, grandfather, grandson, whatever, whether they have been the citizens of US or not. Yes, solely. India also followed this. In India since 1955, continued till 1985-86. We followed the concept of Yas Soli. Whoever is born on the soil of India is the citizen of India, regardless of the parent's nationality. Doesn't matter. The child is born on the soil of India, you are the citizen of India. But then in 1985-86, when the law was changed again, the law said now the child who is born on the soil of India can become the citizen if one of the parent is an Indian. That means one of the parent has to be an Indian. Whether mother or father, one parent has to be an Indian. That means we shifted from Yas Soli to Yas Sanguini, law of the blood. Now, if the child is born, even if the child is born on the soil of India, but we have to look at the blood relations. If one of the parent is an Indian, the child is an Indian. Then this continued till 2003, and the law was passed, amended again. Now the law said, a child, which is the situation today, a child born on the soil of India would become an Indian if both the parents are Indians, the child is an Indian. One of the parent is an Indian, the child is an Indian. One of the parent is an Indian, and the other parent is not an illegal migrant at the time of her birth. Now, who is an illegal migrant? For example, I'm from, let's say, Italy. I have come to India. How? On a valid travel document. I have the passport of Italy. I have the visa which is stamped by the Indian embassy in Rome. And using that travel document, I entered India. That means I am a legal migrant in India. I'm legally allowed to be in India because I have the visa. Let's assume for a while that the visa was valid for 6 months. But I am now overstaying in India. I am now in my 9 months or 10 months or more than a year. That means I was legal migrant in India for 6 months only. After that, I am an illegal migrant in India. And if I marry an Indian and a child is born, this child cannot become an Indian citizen. Why? Because one of the parents is an Indian. The other is an illegal migrant because my visa got expired. Or I did not even enter India through a visa. I am from Italy. I went to Nepal. I had a visa of Nepal. And from Nepal, I crossed the Indian border without any travel document. I'm illegally entering into India. I'm an illegal migrant. And now if I marry an Indian and the child is born, this child cannot become an Indian because even if one parent is an Indian, the other is illegal migrant at the time of her birth. Which means we follow the concept of Yas Sanguini, which basically means law of the blood, which basically means that today, if the child is born in India, if both parents are Indians, the child is an Indian. If one parent is an Indian and the other is a legal migrant, a foreigner, the child is an Indian. Regardless of whether mother is Indian or father is Indian, doesn't matter. Although there was a time when father only had to be an Indian. That was a sexist law. The mother, if she's not an Indian, you cannot become the citizen. But that has been done away with. Now, if the child is born on the soil of India, both parents are Indians, the child is an Indian. One parent is an Indian, the other is a legal migrant, the child is an Indian. One parent is an Indian, the other is a foreigner, the child is an Indian. One parent is Indian, other is an illegal migrant. The child cannot become the citizen of India. That is citizenship by birth. If Seema Heather has a kid today, this means that child won't be eligible for citizenship as she's an illegal migrant, right? Yes. We don't need visa for Nepal, only legal documents. That is if you are a Nepali citizen. But if you are from Italy, you travel to Nepal, and an Italian is traveling from Nepal to India without any travel documents, you are an illegal migrant. What if any Indian tourist gives birth to a baby at USA? Will baby become citizen of USA? Replace that Hong Kong lady with the Indian lady. Answer remains the same. An Indian giving birth to a child in United States, that child becomes a US citizen, provided they want it. So name of the country not require visa. I mean, on Indian passport, you can travel to many countries without a visa. For example, if you go to Indonesia, you go to Bali, just have to enter. You don't need a visa. You just have to pay some fee and you can enter Indonesia. On Khalistan issue, government cancel OCI card. My dear, OCI card, did I discuss it? Did you hear me utter this term OCI? Wait, why do you jump? Sania Mirza son is Indian citizen. This question will not be asked in the exam. Don't go by this permutation and combination. This is not a maths exam where some numericals will be asked from you to be solved. Whatever is required, we will discuss. What if both parents are US citizens and the child is born in India? The child is not an Indian because at least one of the parent has to be an Indian. Why Article 3 is not applicable for JNK? Article 3 now is applicable. Previously, it was not because that was a special status given to Jammu and Kashmir. Why? We will discuss that in JNK chapter. Which fundamental rights are applicable to aliens? Sometimes you just need to deduce things. If these are the only fundamental rights which are exclusively available to citizens, which means all other fundamental rights are available to citizens as well as foreigners. So every other fundamental right is applicable to foreigners. If the baby is born on US soil, is it mandatory to be a US citizen? No, it's not mandatory, but you are eligible for US citizenship. Okay, it's 9:30. We will meet Monday, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we will continue this discussion on citizenship. On Monday, we will discuss what are the other ways by which one can acquire Indian citizenship: by descent, by registration, by naturalization, by incorporation of foreign territory. Then we will discuss what are the ways by which one can lose the citizenship as well. All that will be discussed on Monday. And Monday, we will discuss Citizenship Amendment Act. And there is a feedback form which is sent to you for the previous batch. Please fill that form today and let us know because that feedback is always crucial for us. Happy weekend, everybody. See you on Monday. Till then, have a great time. Bye bye.